Hi all, just wanted to give you a quick overview on the Immersun 2.0. This particular unit's been around since around about 2016. It's the updated version of the original Immersun 1. So with this particular unit, it's a Wi-Fi and wired enabled immersion switch, and what it does basically, if you've got a large PV system on the property itself or a PV system without battery intervention, this particular unit will work in coordination with the PV, and it'll capture surplus electricity based on what the household's generating. Obviously this particular customer's got a large battery capacity and they wanted one of these as well because every day the batteries are getting full. So what this unit will do, it'll capture that surplus overrun or the surplus electricity that's normally wasted after the batteries are full, and it'll dump it directly into the water cylinder. So I've been installing these since 2016, this particular model, and then the predecessor was the Immersun 1. The Immersun 1 used to have a few problems with it because it had a pre-terminated circuit board, so if the unit were to fail, they've got pre-soldered fuses, so it was scrapping the unit basically. But this unit, it's a much more preferable option. It's a much more robust system, and it's got the additional modules that you can add into it. So for argument's sake, if you wanted wireless CT monitoring, you can do. In this particular scenario, we've wired a Cat5 cable to the unit itself for the CT monitoring, and obviously with the system itself, you have got dual heating element output, so it requires one AC feed into the unit itself for its power, and then one Cat5 for the CT communication. And then in this instance, basically the client's got a dual, if you can see there, dual element. So inside this unit there's two elements, one for sink and the other one for the bath. So what we've done here with this particular system, it's quite a special integration, because what we've done basically, there's a feed coming across from the original central heating side of the circuit that runs through a switch fuse spur to fuse the cable down. That runs into the boost terminal on the unit itself. So if for argument's sake it was the middle of winter and the client couldn't get hot water to both immersions because there's not enough solar generation, this unit gives the ability to boost or manually boost both elements in the override basically. But this is only a fuse to protect the cable. Downstairs is where the main switch is for the boost function, so it's done from the kitchen, which is easily accessible. As a rule of thumb, on normal operating conditions, every single day when the solar's generating, if the customer's not utilising that electricity, what it'll do, it'll allow you to prioritise the load. So obviously on here, so on the priority, we've basically set the priority to equal distribution of power. So the 2.1 kilowatts is being split between element 1 and element 2, so it's sending a kilowatt to each unit. So over a period of time that will heat up and it'll automatically switch unchanged, but you can set the priority on there, whether you want to set the priority equal or one or the other first basically. So if you wanted to set priority 1 instead of priority 2, or priority 2 over priority 1, you can change that in accordance to what your requirements are basically. But with the system itself, you can get the internet monitoring side of it. So it's an Immerlink, and the Immerlink connects into the router, connects to the wireless antenna, and it sends all the signal out, so you can pick it up on an application interface as well, which is a very good unit in terms of the way it operates, because it allows that external monitoring ability, whereas the old Immersun 1s and the iBoosts do not do that. With this particular unit, what we've done, we've taken two immersion switches down, two separate fuses, one for each element, so if there's ever a problem with either one of those elements, we can isolate, turn off or replace either one. So in essence, it just makes it completely future proof. With this system as well, I've put the CT clamp as the last clamp in the circuit. So what will happen is basically the batteries get full first priority, any additional over the batteries goes into the Immersun, and then anything that's not being utilised then by the Immersun or by the grid goes into the EV car charging basically. So if the car's plugged in when the sun's shining, this 2.6 kilowatts here would be going directly into the car. So I've kept the car as last point of call for any additional overspill, because the batteries can only charge at 3 or 3.6 kilowatts per hour. The Immersun can only fill up by around about 2.5, 2.1, 2.2, dependent on the temperature it currently sits at, and the additional overspill goes to the grid. Obviously this is a large system, it's an 8 kilowatt PV system on a single phase supply, so obviously in terms of it you're going to have a lot of surplus. So you can see there now the heating's got to temperature. Obviously in terms of it, it'll just keep turning on and turning on in accordance to the energy demand basically. So it keeps the temperature warm on the cylinder, meaning your boiler isn't firing up. Under normal central heating conditions, any Y-plan or S-plan system has a side element thermostat as well. So this was emergency backup, it now turns into primary use. So you will tend to find the elements burn out a little bit quicker than what they would do previously because it is very rarely used, but in actual fact it prolongs the life on the boiler because the boiler's not starting up as much, and these are far cheaper to replace than any boiler components. So as a normal operating condition, when you've got your standard thermostat, that will work on your side element down there, if you can see that, whereas this turns the top element as priority. And you can see now element 2 has just fired up, so it's element 2 is rated at 3 kilowatts, which is, there you go, sink. So element 1's the bath, element 2 is the sink. So you can see there in terms of kilowatt rating. So the second element's getting full now because the first one's already up to temperature because it's been boosted this morning. But if you need any further information on them, they are a brilliant unit to add into the system should you require. But I just wanted to show you exactly what you can do with solar PV.